Tallboys and Trackmasters is brought to you by Expert Exhaust. Expect more for your money. And by Cycle Mart, your motorcycle parts store. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Tuesday at 8 o'clock, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Tallboys
and Trackmasters.
What is going on, bub?
Well, nothing much. Haven't been on the bike since our bike meet night last week.
Same here.
Pretty good time. I wish we'd do stuff like that more often. But
yeah, we definitely need to get out and do less hardcore riding things once in a while and just hanging out. I think that's a great time.
Yep, I agree. But then again, it's hard to do when it's 90 degrees until 8 p.m. for months on end. Nobody wants to stand out in a parking lot and bake.
Yeah. So, hey, I think we got a good episode tonight, man. This is episode 30. You believe that?
I am excited.
30 episodes. We're going to talk about some of our absolute favorite roads around the state of West Virginia and some of the different types of terrain that we see whenever you go around the different parts of our state. And let's start with that because, man, West Virginia is one of the most, I want to say, geologically diverse places I've ever been. You have a little bit of everything, and it's different on every single different area of the state, it seems like, wherever you're riding.
Yeah, you get into like a lot of like micro diversity with geology. Like there's some areas you'll ride 5 miles and you'll go from like loamy soil and not much rock to like red clay and pretty serious amount of rock stuck down in it. So yeah. I know that it's like going from Fairmont, which has like a lot more like hard packed dirt, rock and stuff like that, and you get over towards like Grafton, like over towards Fetterman and stuff like that. It's like a lot more clay, and it's you pick a 20-mile loop and you'll probably ride 4 distinct different types of terrain through it. And I think that's something that's really cool about this state.
Yeah, you're exactly right, man. I know, like we were talking a little bit before we went live, everything that I've seen, it seems like the further west you go, the more you get, closer to Ohio, you're going to get that red clay, that slick, nasty stuff when it gets wet. But it's really hard packed and dusty when it's not wet, obviously. And it's kind of like you said, you get closer over here towards Fairmont. It seems like the rockier it gets towards the eastern part of our state. And then, like down south is kind of a decent mix of everything. Like you said, you got a little bit of loamy black, like thick dirt, and then rocks and hill climbs out the butt. I mean, we're in one of the oldest mountain ranges on this planet in the Appalachians. So there's definitely a lot of elevation changes as far as you go east to west too.
It's definitely mountainous. Back in my pipeline routing days, you'd look at a profile of the pipeline, it looked like a sawtooth pattern going up and down over the mountains up through there. So it was interesting. You even get into some sand in some parts of the state. That's not something we get a lot of. So anytime there's sections of sand, a couple inches deep, you can really get on the throttle. That's a great time. I know there's one road over towards Albright that's like that we talk about here after a while.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, for the most part, we've kind of hit a good bit of the state. I know for me personally, probably not as much on the kind of southwestern part of West Virginia, down towards Point Pleasant, Ripley, like me and the wife went down there for the Mothman Festival a couple weeks back, and that was the first time I've ever actually been in that part of the state. So I know there's a lot of good riding all over the place. So I really want to get down that area and explore a little bit more. But
yeah, being that my fiance's, was born and raised in Point Pleasant, I pretty familiar with the area. I don't really know of a lot that's down there. It seems pretty flat. It really starts to resemble Ohio in that part of the state, but I think there's a lot of secondary roads and stuff down there that are available to be ridden. So maybe that'll be a point for next summer, as I'll take my bike down there one weekend when I go, and go try to explore a little bit and try to get us something that we can go ride in that area.
One of the worst qualities about being just absolutely ate up with this sport and this hobby is like whenever we were driving down that way, the wife's like, "Hey, check out this old farmhouse. This looks cool," or this old bar or this old barn, and I'm just looking left and right, and I'm seeing all these dirt roads turn off. Like, man, where that goes?
Yep, absolutely.
That looks like a good dual sport road. Where's that one go? I'm constantly doing that no matter where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Even when we're out riding, so what, where's that one go? Where's that one go? So
Yeah,
it's all part of the adventure and exploration mentality.
yeah. And we've said this before. West Virginia is an absolute hidden gem when it comes to off-road recreation on this side of the Mississippi. And part of you wants to be a kind of a liaison and get that out there that this is an awesome place to ride. But then on the same token, you're kind of like, no, this is our area. This is our hidden little gem. I don't really care. I mean, me personally, whenever you go out and you see people like saying we're all just a bunch of hillbilly hicks that don't have any teeth and don't have any, education, I'm fine with that because that keeps all those people out, and I just want to enjoy this to myself. But
it's a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
This with the prevalence of social media, I understand the irony of FDSR being a largely social media based group. Every year there's more and more local attractions that are overwhelmed with all of the attention they get from social media. You look at what they call them, the leaf peepers or something like that. I remember growing up, that was always a subset of people that would come from other states to come see this, the leaves change in West Virginia, everything. But they're to the point now, hotels are being booked up, campgrounds are being completely overrun. There's people that are elbow to elbow for areas like Spruce Knob to get to the lookout and everything. And it is a double-edged sword, and it's a fine line to walk between trying to keep something that you can enjoy, but trying to show it to others at the same time. But luckily, it takes a lot of dual sport bikes on a trail to get it congested. It's not like,
Yeah.
I remember when Onyx first came out, the whole Jeep thing really blew up, and you get 5 or 6 in a group of Jeeps that are stuck on a trail or something, and now it's impassable. So it kind of sucked the fun out of that to an extent. But
Yeah, that something that I don't think a lot of people think about is, if you go out west, they have a lot of different land usage laws, and there's a lot more, BLM and that type of stuff. There's a lot more space and area to utilize. And you also have to think that, as a country, there's been more people living for a longer period of time on the East Coast compared to the West Coast. So a lot of our road systems and everything here are way more developed and, paved on this side of the continent than it is, as opposed to the West Coast. And it's also, it's exciting and it's awesome to me to think that West Virginia is kind of that last frontier on the eastern part of the United States, where it's not so built up and it's not so commercialized and paved and up to today's standards, which is good for us. Maybe it's not so good for the quality of living, so to speak, but a lot of our road systems are still, dirt county back roads, as to where if you go to a different part of the state on the East Coast, it's probably all chip and tar, and let's just be honest, not very fun for what we want to do.
Yep. Yeah. Based on the stuff that I see from other guys like on Adventure Rider and stuff like that posting, to a large extent, we don't know how good we have it here. I've spent my entire life living here. I've traveled and stuff, don't get me wrong, but it's not like I've went out and lived in Jersey for some period of time or whatever, but I see a lot of guys on dual sport forums, especially talking about living in New Jersey. It's like,
Yeah.
I got to hit X hours of tarmac before I can get to the closest trail. And I'm sitting here thinking, so I got to hit like 400 yards or something like that. Like it's really a great area to be in for dual sport riding. And like you've said in the past, it's almost like a hidden gem.
It really is. Like you said, man, hell, we right here in Fairmont, and we're going to get into this soon. Some of one of the funnest dual sport roads around here, like we're right here in the county where it's at.
Absolutely.
But on the same side of that, it's built up enough to where there's gas stations, there's places to get food, supplies. It's not like you're on the western frontier or in the Wyoming BDR where you might go almost 200 some miles before you get to a gas station or any type of help. I mean, it is a cool mix of still being civilized and uncivilized.
It's like you get the rush of like the kind of the adventure pioneer spirit, but without the commitment of
right.
If your bike breaks down or something like that, you're hours and hours away from civilization.
Yeah. So you're exactly right, man.
Very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah. So let's get into some of these roads, and we're going to just kind of start local to Fairmont and slowly work our way out. And there's no real rhyme or reason, and I'm sure we're going to miss a bunch of roads. And this is just kind of our personal opinion of stuff that we like to ride, and is honestly 90% of these are good for everybody. I mean, there's a few of them they're pretty challenging roads, but feet down, elbows up, FDSR. I'll let you finish the rest of that.
FDSR, we're not happy until you're not happy.
So, obviously we'll start with kind of the local stuff that we have around us in Fairmont. So, I mean, you got to think there's, if you just go on like the western side of the Mon River, just in Fairmont alone, you have, what I can think off the top of my head, obviously, Fort Hill, which is County Route 19/8. It's kind of a ridge road that connects Reesville, Barrackville, and Grantown all together on an old dirt county road. And there are so many trails off of that ridge that go down on both sides around. I know we ran that whole section there the second year we did the 304 detour. It's in our buddy Fred Miller's backyard, literally. And I grew up riding up there, and it's a great area to explore and get off the beaten path. And pretty much no matter whatever trail you go off of is going to lead you right back onto the main part of the road. So that's one of my favorites.
The main trail that goes through there is, big bike friendly, beginner bike friendly, etc. You just have to mind your speed and ride to your ability. But you start getting into some of those side trails and stuff. It
does get technical.
Fun. There's some seriously fun challenge in some of those areas, and you can spend almost a whole day just in Fort Hill.
You really can.
It's a nice area.
The other one that's really, which is kind of funny, you say like 400 yards. That the next trail was literally 2 miles down the road from that, and that is what a lot of the local guys around here call Hell's Hollow. So actually, where the new Track 93 motocross track is, if you go past the entrance for the motocross track, you'll start seeing the trail system kind of open up through there. And it's an old Consol Energy coal hauling road where they went down for some barges on the river, but it's still a county road. It parallels US Route 19 from Reesville up towards Morgantown, and it's all on the eastern side of Route 19. Kind of the same deal. There's a main, very well-traveled, dirt path county road gravel system that goes through that whole area with tons of offshoots. And I would kind of put it in that same token that, the main part of the trail is definitely big bike friendly, but the more you branch off, the more difficult and challenging it gets. And just a great area to ride. I know, growing up with the West Virginia Jeep Club, we were there almost every weekend. There's a fun playground area with lots of hill climbs and some little jumps and whoop section you can do. Just you can spend a whole day there too, honestly.
Yep. I really like both those areas. Those were pretty integral in me gaining some skill set with technical stuff, because I was a more beginner rider.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think of, that's kind of in that same side of the town, basically. And it's not really a very long trail. I would say that this is definitely a lot more technical and probably not very big bike friendly. And that would be Tower Hill Road, which is County Route 56/4. And it is literally right across the street from my house here. It's over in the Mary Lou Retton area off of Watson Hill, and it connects you over into Monongah. Like I said, it's not a very long trail at all, but it is a super technical trail. Yep. If you're coming from the Monongah side into Fairmont on that, it's all downhill, which is actually pretty fun. Yep. If you want more of a challenge, if you come from the Ballfield side up to Monongah, it's all uphill. It's super tight, super rocky, lots of roots and lots of mud holes, and really fun for what we like to do.
Yep, agreed.
And that's the other thing, guys. If I see a lot of people post up on the group that they're looking for areas to ride, and this is the episode that you want to watch if you want to know some local stuff to go ride. I'm going to give you all these county route numbers to the best of my knowledge, so make sure you save this and watch it back, and you're going to get a good idea of some fun roads to ride as we go through. So let's kind of move, from Fairmont and go a little bit west to our old buddy Tom King's stomping grounds out towards Mannington, because there's a lot of good stuff out that way as well. One of my favorite ones is what we like to call Fairgrounds Road / Peach Road, and that is County Route 250/10. And what it does is connects Plum Run up to Athos Road outside of Farmington. And if you continue on off of Fairgrounds Road and go down Peach Road, that's where the challenge really starts to open up. That's an old road that hasn't been traveled very much. So I would say, Fairgrounds Road is a challenge, but it's doable on a big bike. It's a good time. Peach Road, I don't think I would take a big adventure bike down through there. You need to be on a smaller dual sport. Peach Road has a really big washout about halfway through, and you have to kind of get up on the left-hand side of that washout and kind of ride with some speed to get around it. But it's definitely a fun road to do, and it's a nice ride the rest of the way out on the old 250 outside of Farmington there. Kind of in that same vein in the Mannington area, one of my favorites and one of the crew's favorites. If you stop at Tom King's house and ride his place and then go out the old streetcar line and go down across Buffalo Creek, that's going to put you onto what we like to call Mawkins Run or Gump Hill Road. And it is a super fun, long, flowy kind of 2-track, couple hill climbs, some deep mud holes. I would suggest staying out of all the deep mud holes.
That's actually a good piece of advice. It's kind of overarching to all the trails that we'll mention, is staying out of the mud holes in general.
Yeah.
In some areas, they're not, 6 inches deep with a rock bottom anymore. They're clay bottomed and, feet deep from side by sides, and Jeeps pouring them out over the years.
Yeah, that would be my piece of advice is stay out of any mud holes you can in the state. 90% of them don't have a bottom, and you're gonna be having a bad time. So this next road that kind of comes right off of Gump Hill Road, once you come down to the bottom of this really steep hill climb and you make a left, not very far out of sight, it doesn't really have a street name. We affectionately call it Versus Hill, because I spent half a day trying to get up the hill at the very top of it on my Versus 650. I can give some GPS points for this, where it starts at. So if you're doing latitude, longitude lines, it's 39.5394148, and then it's 80.327946. You'll go past this really old oil pump house station, and it really doesn't look like there's much of a road left. You'll start seeing some little pieces of broken asphalt, and it meanders beside this creek. And then there is a really, really steep, technical, really bad hill climb to get to the top of that ridge. Once you make it to the top of that ridge, you'll hang a left and just follow the ridge line out, and it'll bring you down through this old big field back onto old Route 250. That is definitely not big bike friendly. Do not attempt to take a big bike up through there. That was one of the AA options the second year we did the 304 detour. But one of my favorites. It's a challenge to get up that hill and make it to the top of that ridge. Let's kind of go down south for just a little ways here, kind of the center part of the state, and two roads that really ring true as an adventure and fun. And these are actually two that Chris Burke and the guys did on the Blackwater Adventure Rally, and that's Kingsville Road, which you can turn your KTM into a submarine if you want to. That's County Route.
Says who?
Yeah, says my dad, I guess, right? That's County Route 17/2. It's right off of Route 33. Once you come down to the bottom of the hill, you'll see where the old railroad grade goes across the road. If you're coming in from the Route 33 side, you're going to hang a left and go out the old railroad bed clear to the end. You go through the old Kingsville Railroad Tunnel. Lots of super deep water the whole way out through there, but it is a good time. It is fun. I'd say if you're a slightly higher skilled rider, it's big bike friendly, but I would definitely suggest a smaller bike on that one there. One that I didn't know about and we got to do with Chris, and that is Prison Mine Camp Road. It's a little bit south of Norton and really doesn't have a county road number. They call it Delta Road 4, and it was, I would say, at least 10, 12 miles long. Super fun, flowy 2-track, a little bit of rocky. It was definitely muddy in spots, had some big mud holes. And the very last part of that road where it drops down into Norton, man, baby head boulders for a mile long of this downhill section. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself the whole way down, like, man, doing this road backwards and trying to come up, that would be a challenge. It would be a huge challenge, but it's super fun down in that area. Man, anywhere down there around Belington, Elkins, dude, any of those old roads are a good time. There's so much good riding around there.
Having grown up in that area, I can confirm there's a lot of good riding that enjoy it while you can, because between hunting leases and housing developments, it's getting fewer and further between.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're going to miss some roads. I know there's, Rich Mountain, Long Run, everything down around that way. Super fun stuff as well. Let's move to one of the probably most traveled counties that we do as a group. And man, there are so many good roads. The entire county is just one big fun dual sport ride, in my opinion. That's Preston County. I mean, dude, there is so much fun stuff in Preston County. We can start off with one of everybody's favorite kind of nasty hard roads. That's Peddler's Glory.
Yep.
Peddler's Glory.
I've been sitting here trying to remember what the name of that road was coming out of Terra Alta.
Yeah, it's Peddler's Glory.
I've ridden it probably 3 or 4 times, all going downstream. And that is probably one of my top 5 favorite roads in the state for like the harder side of dual sport. If you're going down through there and there's a decent bit of water in the creek, and you get the sun glinting off the water surface, you can't see what's under there. There's the big rocks, the sideways or diagonal turned logs and all that stuff going down through there. At some point, I'd like to try it backwards. I would like to try to go upstream at some point, but I highly recommend that. I wouldn't consider it to be big bike friendly though.
Yeah. That's it's County Route 45/3 is Peddler's Glory. And like Trevor was saying, it's kind of funny. You go out Route 7 and you're coming into Terra Alta. Right before you get into Terra Alta, there's this really sharp right-hand kind of hairpin turn in this farmer's field, and you'll look off to the left, and there's a little street sign that kind of looks like it goes into the cornfield right there, and that's where it starts if you're coming down, if you want to do the downhill version of it. And then it comes down and connects near the State Road Garage in Albright, which is pretty fun down that way.
It takes you through, or connects you up to some pretty fun trails down through there.
Yep.
Like what's it called? Copperfield Road or Copperhead Road?
Copperhead Road. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Earle, baby.
Yep.
In that same area, I mean, obviously we can't have this list without talking about Bull Run. 14/4 with Bull Run Bridge, the one you see everybody jumping off of, and or the whitewater rafting guys come through and come out at. I mean, That's County Route 14/4. Goes from Masontown down across the Cheat River and then up to Brewston Mills. You know, I would definitely say that that's big bike friendly. It's very scenic. On the Masontown side, like if you're coming down that way, the very last couple little bits of the downhill can get a little bit challenging and technical before you go across the bridge. Everything else on the other side is easy and doable. It's just kind of a nice flowy track.
Masontown side, there is a trail that cuts off sharp to the left back down the hill that will take you down to kind of call it like a little beach or something like that down there. That's pretty cool. If the water guys are running, you can get a pretty good view of what they've got going on down there. As opposed to looking at them from the bridge. Unfortunately, you used to be able to go through Bull Run and go all the way up to Sand Springs and touch minimal pavement. But as far as I know, that bridge past I think of the road name now, is still closed off.
Yeah, our friends at the what is that, the Cheap River Preservation Society or something, and in cahoots with that housing development that's supposedly being built in there that's got that bridge still shut down.
Yeah, Shiloh and I drove up there in my Tacoma at one point and looked at it, and they had a lot of pretty sizable cabins and stuff being built up there.
Yeah,
I knew it was game over as soon as I saw survey flags.
Yeah,
years ago, I knew what was coming. So
yep. But yeah, and the other thing I would caution people on is maybe try not to go down there when it's a holiday weekend like Memorial Day, 4th of July, because dude, it's just going to be packed. It's going to be full of, drunken idiots down there trying to, it's not a good time. I would say any day during the week or a weekend when it's not busy.
Yeah. Any popular trail I will try to stay away from during drinking holidays. A lot of these guys in these side-by-sides fly around these corners completely sideways, and all it takes is being in the wrong spot once. So that's speaking from experience on Bull Run. Ask AJ.
Yeah. Another good one close to there is Edom Road, which is County Route 72/14. Or excuse me, 72/4. And I would definitely say that's a really good adventure bike worthy road. I know you and AJ have done some exploring over that way. I've been on it a few times, but I know there's some radio towers and stuff you can ride up to. It's a nice, flowy, scenic area.
Yeah, that one of the repeater towers in that area, I can't remember. I think it faces over towards the east on a hilltop that you can see from the Edom station. It has a pretty nice, flowy, I'd consider it big bike friendly if you're a good rider, road that goes out to it. We went and explored for, the better part of an afternoon out there. I'd like to go back and explore more because it seemed like we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah. One of my favorites in all of Preston County, if you go into Rollsburg and you go across the bridge towards like the railroad depot, there's a road that cuts to the left and goes back up beside the river. And just right out of sight past that turn, you'll see a road that cuts up the hill to the right called Calvert Shaver Road. I couldn't get the county route number on it, but man, that is one of my favorite roads. If you come in from that side, from the Rollsburg end, you have a super long, fun, uphill dirt road with some water breaks. You can jump. It's a great time all the way up to the top of that road. And then it gets a little rocky about halfway across into this. It looks like an old cow pasture you go through, a little bit of barbed wire fence on both sides. We had a lot of big bikes with us on the Memorial Day ride we did that went up through there no problem. And it kind of meanders around and brings you out at the wherever that big golf course is right there in Albright, kind of across from the Camp Dawson in that area right there. Super fun, flowy road, gravel to the end. It's a good time. I really enjoy that road. Let's go south, like kind of far south, and hit some of the ones that we got to do on Tour de Coalfield, some of the fun ones on that one. One of these, this next road, there's a little bit of litigation going on because there's some landowners trying to close it down. I know some of the guys with the Country Roads Coalition that we're part of have been submitting some stuff to try to get that road not to be abandoned. I think that we're kind of winning that battle right now. So as of right now, the road is still open, and that's Molly Road, County Route 8/1. I know we got a little bit lost up in there whenever we first went up in that area, but man, that was a super fun road to go up through there.
The more fun I had.
Yeah, it just kept going and going and going, and it just climbed to the top of the hill. I would say that if you're on an adventure bike and you actually go halfway up and make the turn across the creek like you're supposed to keep on going out Molly Road, that part's good for a bigger adventure bike. But if you were like us, where you were doing some exploring on all the little side shoot trails and continuing up the hill, I know our buddy Luke struggled on the Tenere 700 and some of these water break mud holes.
Yeah, the section that goes almost completely to the top that you and I went trying to figure out where we needed to be. That climb seemingly went on forever, and there's so many washouts and stuff. You're just switching sides of the trail constantly, and if you lose momentum, it's really hard to regain on some of that stuff because it goes through. It'll level off for a little bit, then get relatively steep again, and it was really challenging. And I'd like to go back and ride that again.
That last uphill section, man, it was really deceptive because you're always going uphill, and then you come around this turn, and then you had like no run, and it was almost straight up and down vertical that last little bit of hill. So definitely needed a little bit of juice and some power to get to the top of that one. But Molly Road's high up on my book. That was a good time. Down around very scenic Bluestone Lake, the road that we rode coming into the headwaters of the Bluestone Lake is River Ridge Road 44/10. And that's in my top 10 of roads in the state of West Virginia. That was a really super fun, flowy trail the whole way through that. Super long too, man. It felt like we were on that for like 20 some miles. Some water crossings. And then the further you got towards the lake, the funner the road got. Kind of technical. I wouldn't even call it 2-track, maybe track and a half. Water breaks, rocks, roots.
For inflation.
Yeah. But I will warn everybody right now, on the intro video where you see Trevor laying it down, that's the creek crossing at the end of River Ridge Road. And it is the slickest, slimiest creek crossing in this state. So if you do go across there, man, watch that crossing. It is bad.
That is no joke, because I didn't even come into that thing hot by any means, and immediately had the back end of the bike walk out. So did not catch it in time, but it makes for a good intro video.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, super fun road. I really like that one down there. And kind of the last one that made a real big impact, I think, and was really fun for us was McKendree Road, which is County Route 25. McKendree Road connects. I'm trying to think of the old town. I can't remember on the one end, but it's down in what's now the new River Gorge National Forest, and it goes from the one main drag of the road beside the river. I think it's Gauley River, over to Thurmond, and it's all on the very side of this hill, and the road's all cut out, and it's like 35 miles long almost. And man, it is such a hoot. It's a good time. A lot
of gravel and hard pack, and it's not fun because of the challenge. It's fun just because it goes on seemingly forever.
Yeah,
carries some serious speed around some of those sweeping turns, and it's just a really good time.
I would definitely say that one's big bike friendly too. That's a really fun road to take a big bike on. And then once you come to the end of it, it drops you down into this kind of campground area and across a little bridge. And you run the blacktop out to the very end of the next T intersection. And if you make a right at that T, that'll take you into the old railroad town of Thurmond, which is really cool to stop and check out with the old Amtrak station and stuff that's still there. So that's definitely one on the top 10 of my list for fun roads there. And in addition to what we were talking about with Preston County, I think we're definitely we can't go off of here without talking about Tucker County and some of the really fun roads. I mean, I think when you think of dual sport and adventure riding in the state of West Virginia, what do you think is probably the number one road that you hear about that people want to come and do?
It's got to be Canaan Loop.
It's Canaan Loop, and that's the next one we're going to talk about there. I would venture to say that 80% of the people that watch this show have been on Canaan Loop Road on their bikes.
If not, you need to make it a point to go out there because it is a fun ride.
Yep, that's it's considered Forest Road 29.
Yep.
And the way that we like to run it, which I think is the funnest way to run it, is to actually go out of Davis and Thomas and catch it on the other end, the south of Davis, and run it all the way back and come out at the Blackwater Lodge Inn. If you do it that way, there's probably 8-9 miles of gravel through seemingly endless forest that you go through before you really start to get into the tight technical like water crossing areas. I feel like if you run it that way, you get the boring stuff out of the way first before you get into some of the funner stuff.
I agree.
I think there's 4 water crossings that you do on that entire road, 4 or 5.
Yeah, and they're when we say water crossings, these are typically pretty mild. Of course, they're tributaries of Blackwater, but they have pretty well developed rock substrate, like the bottom of it. You're not going to worry about sinking in. They're not muddy, slick, or anything. You got good traction pretty much the whole way through the Canaan Loop. Just avoid the mud holes where you see like 2 sets of tire tracks going in, because again, Jeeps and side-by-sides are through there a lot. For you guys that are interested in moto camping, I would highly, highly suggest that road. I've camped out there in my truck, my Jeep. I'd like to make it out there and camp on the bike, but there's a lot of spots out there.
Man, there really is. I mean, everywhere you look out there, your left and right, there's wide spots to camp off of on that road.
Yep. If you get into the rougher stuff, looking back towards like across the canyon to where Canyon Rim Trail is, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yep.
There's some really scenic overlooks of the Blackwater watershed, like the valley and everything back in there. And I've camped there a few times and really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Some of the rock uphills and downhills, and they're right near where the creek crossings are. You really need to pay attention on some of those, because if you pick a bad line, man, it's very easy, if you don't have a skid plate, to rip an oil pan off. I know we had a guy a few years back that had a Versus 650 like mine asking for help because he ripped his oil pan off on one of those rocks. So I'd say caution if you're on a bigger bike. You need to slow down, pick your lines correctly, and definitely make sure you got a skid plate if you're going to cross there. But man, it's so cool coming down through those and seeing the black water as you go across. It's a really, really good time.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
On topic of skid plates on a big bike, that would be a trust your skid plate and grit your teeth type thing. That would are pretty gnarly.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. Right there in the same area is Forest Road 18, Canyon Rim.
Yep.
Canyon Rim kind of goes through what I affectionately like to call the ghetto of Thomas, back through past Douglas Falls, which is a really cool area too. If you've ever heard about that, want to stop there, Douglas Falls is cool to check out. And we usually run it that way. We run it from the bottom of Thomas all the way up, and obviously stop at Olson Tower at the end of the road. You hang a left. But Canyon Rim, it's definitely doable on a bigger adventure bike. I'd say you have to slowly pick your lines and not go as fast as you could on a smaller bike. Canyon Rim has a lot of rocks, and the rocks don't move. They are embedded in the ground. So you're going to pinball around a little bit. And stay out of the mud holes on it, man. Some of those are deep too.
And they're like the perfect size and shape to deflect your front end. Again, they don't move at all. It's like an iceberg. You're just seeing the tip of it, embedded in the ground, but they are perfect for deflecting your front end on some of that stuff.
Yep.
There is a washout coming from the Olson Tower side, probably about a mile or so into the actual trail. There's a significant washout from a big culvert that got washed away in a flood. And every time they try to come fix it, the next big rain that happens, it ends up being washed out again. So again, doable, but if you're one of the first few bikes through there after a fresh rain, don't count on having a big bike friendly path to get through it. Wait until the Jeeps and stuff bore that back out.
Yeah, I got to see some video from Chris from the rally, and they were taking some of the big adventure bikes through there, and the washout looked just as bad as it always did. I know they did a little bit of work on it there last year, but man, it's right back to how it was before. But it's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, you could park my Jeep and where the washout is, where that culvert used to sit, and there'd probably still be 1.5 foot above the
Yeah.
roof line before
Yeah.
you hit grade.
The one cool thing I will say right there around where that washout is, I'm trying to think. I can't remember. It depends on which way you're going, if it's before or after. It's right around that washout. There's an old overlook, and you can see a little walking path, and you'll see two kind of jagged, pointy rocks, and there's a little path between those, and it's kind of in the Laurel. If you walk through that opening right there, it'll come out on a really awesome overlook right there.
Yep. And it's really easy to miss.
Yeah, it is.
You're there.
I know I always cracked up. Rode with Brian Holmes a couple of times on his big BMW 1200. Cylinder head sticking out like this, and he would ride that thing right through that opening on those rocks. You couldn't fit a sheet of paper between the cylinder heads and those rocks. I'm like, yeah, he's done that a time or two. He knows where his cylinder heads are sticking out at. Yeah, all of Canaan Valley, man, is such an awesome area to explore, ride around, and just walk around into. I mean, there's plenty of awesome trails. Obviously Blackwater Falls is an awesome place to stop and check out as well. Kind of moving on from Canaan Valley a little bit, you got some stuff kind of working your way towards the Parsons area out of Canaan Valley. And I think this is another one of the most popular roads, and it's 1,000%. It's big bike friendly. It's long. I know that it's way funner on a bike than it is in a Jeep. If you take a Jeep across this, it feels like it takes 8 years to do the whole road. That's government road. I mean, government road is County Route 41. Follows Schaefer's Fork and just meanders from Parsons all the way to Elkins, basically off of Old 33.
Yeah, it'll spit you out down towards Stewart's Park, and you can take a left from there and go out across the road that goes past Bear Haven, which is a good campground, a personal favorite. And any road you get like that connects two major cities together without having to touch pavement is perfect.
Yep. On the other side of Shavers Fork, you have Shavers Fork Road, which is County Route 39, and it's just as fun or funner, in my opinion, on the other side of the river to go back up that way.
There's some cool old cabins out there too. It's every bit as scenic. It goes through a little bit more elevation change.
Yeah.
Along the way.
Yeah. One of the more popular roads that we do to kind of get ourselves from, if we're out around Cool Springs, Rollsburg area, to get down to Canaan Valley is 12-mile road, which is County Route 112 over 1. And in addition to that, I'm also going to lump Snake Road into that, which is County Route 110, because Snake Road goes outside of Cool Springs at the bottom of Cheat Mountain. You'll see it cut off to the right. If you stay on Snake Road, it comes to a four-way intersection, and straight across from that four-way intersection is 12-mile road. And I would say, 12-mile or Snake Road, excuse me, definitely big bike friendly. It's an absolute blast to just hoonigan yourself clear across through there at a high rate of speed. I've seen one vehicle on that road the entire time I've been dual sport riding. We did it on the Easy Loop. Super wide. You can kind of flat track yourself around all the turns and ruin the rear knob on your bike quickly on that road. It's a good time. And then, straight across from there is 12-mile. Now, there are parts of 12-mile that are a little bit rough and a little bit technical for a big bike. If you're on a smaller dual sport, you're going to have no problem down through there. And I know they did some logging down through there towards that one house and kind of took out, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of the whole entire trail, but it's still a good time. Follows that little creek bed down back into St. George. And we know from experience, the people that live at the very end of 12-mile road, super nice older couple that are paramedics. So if you're ever in a pinch and need some help, those are the people to go see right there.
You and I call it 12-mile. Arthur calls it ACL Avenue.
Yeah. Poor AJ.
Poor AJ. No less that one either.
And in that same area, this is a new one I'd heard of but never really got to do. and we did it on the easy loop, and that is Location Road, which is County Route 5. So if you come up to Snake Road at the four-way intersection and make a right on the asphalt and just take a little bit of asphalt, you'll actually get to where you turn left on the Location Road. And man, that has one of the prettiest views out of any road in the state of West Virginia, in my opinion. That valley that you ride on the top of, snaking out around through there, absolutely gorgeous. And then it's a really good way to connect you over to down into Canaan Valley again, like where the windmills and stuff are. And I can't remember the name of that one road. I always forget it, where the spring is that comes out of the side of the mountain, and there's I think it's an old bathtub or something there where you get a drink of spring water. I'm trying to remember the name of that road through that way.
I can't even think of how many times I've been by it, and I can't me think the name.
Yeah, we did that whole entire stretch on the easy loop, and it was just an absolute blast. You couldn't ask for a better road, especially for a bigger adventure bike. And I would venture to say even one that really just, if you got like 80-20 street tires, you're going to be fine on that road, because it's just so hard packed and flows around that mountaintop, and it's a good road to ride, man. One of the last ones that we have on our list, because we're already 46 minutes into this, but if you're in the Doddridge, Wetzel County area, I would highly recommend you check out 5 Points, which is called Arches Fork Road. It's County Route 20/5. Kind of the same deal. It's a huge riding off-road area. The main route through the entire thing is 20/5, but there's so many trails that branch off. And it's a lot like the other roads that we've talked about throughout the show tonight, that the main trail or the main road through the area is really good for pretty much any bike, but the more you branch off of it, the worse it's going to get.
Yep.
And obviously, if you've heard of 5 Points, you've heard of Agnes Hill Climb, which if you're really feeling froggy, that's something you can try to attempt. I've climbed it 3 times, once on my XR 650R and twice on a YZ250, and it is very steep and very long and technical to track.
Yeah, if you're one of the guys that rides like you can respawn, that's a good option. I got one more to add. I was
Okay.
about Government Road bringing you to Stewart's across to Bearhaven. You can go from Bearhaven down towards Lower Glady, pick up a road called Sully that will spit you out in Weimer, and you can go across that to Middle Mountain. You can ride there all the way to Spruce Knob, or up towards Durban, and not touch pavement really. So you're more of like a big bike adventure ride style or moto camping, that area is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Let's go through some of these comments, and we'll do the industry news and stuff before we get to our newest favorite segment of Had to Layer Down. We got a good one for that one here in a minute.
Sure do.
Rob Dalton's on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in on there, buddy. He says, is there any good riding around Williamson? I would hazard to say yes. There's got to be some good riding around Williamson. You're right there in the Ohio Valley. Thad Duvall is from Williamson, so I'm sure there's some type of good riding around that area. I know there's a lot of cool roads in Reno, across the river there in the Ohio side of Marietta. I would say maybe hit up my buddy Marcus Yonker. He's kind of around from that area, and I guarantee he knows some fun roads over in that way. JJ Ford, who's also from YouTube here, says COVID made riding a mountain bike in the Mon really difficult. It's finally settling down. Man, it made everything difficult in the Mon forest. I mean, nobody was allowed to do anything except kind of go out and explore a little bit. The pictures that I saw from Dolly Sods and stuff are just absolutely insane during COVID.
As somebody whose second biggest hobby is camping, that was a complete disaster.
Yeah. Let's see. Buddy Zach Fleming says, can we get a list of these roads posted and pinned to a post on the group? Yeah, I can do that. I'll put all the county routes and everything together. There won't be any excuses about not being able to find a road local to ride. Tyler Vincent says, good ways to connect Junior to Long Run and Rich Mountain too. Yep. Our old buddy Jim Kwalk said he just did the Cheat River Loop Friday. Very cool for big bikes. I think that might be the one that's posted up on the group that's pinned. That's like the Laurel Highlands to Cheat Loop, which is one that I want to ride. I mean, we've ridden everything around in the West Virginia side, but it actually goes up into Pennsylvania, like almost all the way to Nemacolin. I want to check that out. That would be cool. Let's see. Zach was tagging TJ Colton in this to show him the roads. JJ Ford said that Long Run is his go-to for a quick ride out of Buchanan. Yep. It's a good time down through that area. That's when I got to ride with Chris. That was the first time I went down that way. My buddy JP Burns, who I work with at the plant, says bear hunters make it through the Rail Rock Road. That's what they call the canyon rim. And I'd say, yeah, you got your Nissan through there. Let's see. Danny Ingold, what's up, Danny? He says, geez, he needs to get out more. Yeah, you do, man. Come ride with us some more.
Yeah, we encourage it.
Marcus Yonker says his top 3 roads in West Virginia in no particular order. Smith Mountain Road, that's a really good one. I like that one too. Dry Fork Road, where you go to the Sinks of Gandy, super cool, awesome road. The road across from Mower Track Basin, he believes, is Forest Road 227 off of US 250. Never done that one, but man, that sounds like a good one too. All right, let's get into a little bit of some industry news. I'm going to flash that across the bottom, and we'll kind of talk about it as it comes through. First thing is BMW issues a stop sale on all North American models due to evap system issues. I know from what I read, it was everything from some bikes catching on fire to them not running at all. And it was affected all of the BMW models.
That
everything.
Sounds like pretty normal function for a BMW. Not running at all.
One that you sent me, which was really cool, was the new Honda Transalp 750 is coming to the United States. And man, that middleweight adventure bike segment just continues to explode.
Man, that's a hot segment right now.
It really is.
We'll see how it fares against the Tenere in real world use.
You know, everything that I've seen, it's basically the 750 Honda Hornet motor, which is what, 100 horsepower, 115, somewhere around there.
American spec motor will make mid 80s, low to mid 80s, I think.
Still up there for an adventure bike. And, you know, you always have preconceived notions when you look at something and go into maybe riding it, where I think everybody kind of looks at the Transalp as, I wouldn't really say like a baby Africa Twin, but maybe something that's a little more street friendly in that adventure side of the market. But, you know, everybody said that about the V-Strom 800, the new one that's out, and everybody's saying it's actually really fun off-road as well.
Every bike's one good set of knobbies away from being a trail monster.
You know, like we talked about, anything is a dual sport if you try hard enough.
Yep.
I've got 2 bikes over here that have no business having knobbies on it in the garage. I take them out all the time. And the last thing we'll talk about, our old buddy Gabe from Torture Test Magazine picked up one of the new XR 150Ls. And him, along with some other people, were saying that they are coming with high oil consumption rates. I think it was like 440 milliliters in 1,000 miles.
Yep.
And as you can see what I put on there, if you got a flog 8 horsepower to get up to highway speeds and you're redlining constantly, I think you are going to use a little bit of oil there.
A liter of oil per 2,000 miles, it might as well be a 2-stroke at that point.
Might have more power if it was a 150 2-stroke.
A 150 2-stroke dual sport would probably be pretty sweet.
I know. I'm trying to remember the name of it, if it was Marinis or what they were, but man, they had some like little like 100 and 125 cc like supermotos out for a while. They look like a total blast, a total hoot.
I know that a lot of South American countries are still getting like current production Yamaha DTs and stuff like that. They're still making essentially 2-stroke dual sports, but for like South American export markets.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff like that we never get, obviously. And America never gets any of the cool stuff.
Hiluxes, Land Cruisers, 2-stroke dual sports. We don't get any of the cool stuff over here.
Like, I know Honda had some out. I think it was a CRM. And they were the like the 250 and 500 2-stroke street and trail bikes. We never got any of those. And then, you know, like you said, the Yamaha DT 200 and 250s, they were really cool bikes that we never got. Well, are you ready for our new favorite segment? I think we got a funny one here today. We'll break down, and I was very excited when you sent that to me.
I was too, because it gave me a great idea.
Let's hope you don't have to run into the same situation. But it's time for our newest segment. Had to lay her down.
Did you run into some clippings? Did Barb take the kids? Well, Hoss, maybe you had to lay her down.
Never get tired of that. That cracks me up every time.
It's one of my favorite things come out of the internet.
It hurt my throat so bad to talk like that too on that little voiceover that I did. Now, granted, obviously, I had to lay her down is kind of directed at Harley riders a little bit. So if you ride a Harley, we apologize in advance. But this was a great one. So Trevor sends this to me on Instagram, and it's kind of funny because there's a point in the video where you see something happen that the guy tries to do to recover from his had to lay her down.
It just makes it worse.
And it makes it worse, and it's so awkward, and it's just great. It cracks me up every single time. So let's get to it here. I'm going to add this on. So what this is you have some kind of redneck style wedding, and these guys were riding their bikes in through the reception hall, and we'll just kind of let the video speak for itself here. Oh, now here's my favorite part. So right here, he picks her up and he's trying to play it off like it's completely cool, and it doesn't help it.
Twirl it off, Barb.
He tries to take her hand and just twirl her around like he was part of the show, and it wasn't at all.
That hurt. Not only did she hit the back of the head off that concrete,
man,
hard, but her significant other, who probably pretty well-fed looking guy, just completely squishes a rib cage when she falls down on top of her. And yeah, that's rough. That was a recipe for disaster, though. This isn't a comment about weight, but having counterweight that far over your back wheel, period, completely changes how your bike handles. So yeah, that was doomed from the start. But I'm glad there's people out there doing stuff like that, because I need something to break up the monotony of the work week. But,
I just like I said, the best part to me was him trying to play it off and just spin her around. Like
I meant to do that. My favorite thing about it is I've seen the video from two different angles, neither of which show what happens to that bike after it just continues to slide out of frame.
Took out the poor DJ.
I can only imagine the preacher up there just getting legs swept right out from under him by this Harley sliding across the concrete.
Poor guy's up there just trying to talk to the young dating couple that's thinking about getting married, been there all day, and then bam, an 883 Sportster just takes his legs completely out.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
But
luckily that can't be me, because my KTM doesn't have passenger pegs.
Yeah. I was impressed with the power to get that thing up as high as it did in there on a slick surface.
Really, really dumped the clutch and went for it all.
Yeah. He had to center as best as he could. All right, man. Well, I think that about wraps it up this evening. Got to talk about some of our favorite roads across the state, and hopefully that list continues to grow as we go out and explore a little bit more. Like I said, I want to get kind of south central area and explore down that way a little bit, and up in the PA too. We don't really ride a whole lot of PA and haven't got to explore up that way. I'm sure there's some good stuff there too. Yeah,
there's a lot of the state that I'd like to go out and see. So make it a point in the coming years to make that happen.
Yep. Just got to keep exploring and getting a little bit further out from Fairmont, but man, there's some good stuff close to home too.
Yep. I agree.
All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in as always. We'll catch you next time. Not sure what the topic's going to be, but as soon as we figure it out, we'll let you all know. And remember, keep her on two wheels, and hopefully you won't have to lay her down.
Stay away from them clippings. Thanks for your time.
See y'all.